Chapter 1. Mud, Blood, and the Breaking Dawn. Life in a prehistoric settlement. Before the empires and alphabets. Before kings etched laws into stone. Before pyramids pierced the horizon. There was a place, dusty, cracked, wild and uncertain, where people tried to live. This was Mesopotamia. Not the golden Mesopotamia of textbooks. Not the proud names of Hammurabi or Gilgamesh. No. This was the other Mesopotamia. The forgotten one. The messy, muddy, hard life of ordinary people who never wrote their names on tablets, who lived and died in silence. Imagine it. You are born near the banks of the Euphrates. Your house is a rectangle of mud bricks and reed mats. Its roof leaks when it rains. The walls bake and crack when it's dry. There's no door, just a curtain made from stitched goat skins. There's one small window, too high for anyone to climb through, too low for light to truly help you see. Inside, your mother squats near a clay oven. She stirs a pot. You smell lentils. You hear your baby sister whimpering, hungry again. Your father is outside, scratching lines in the dirt, calculating how far he must dig to reach water for the next planting season. You are 4 years old. Already, you carry water from the river to your house. No one waits for you to grow up. By 5, you can herd goats. By 7, you know how to grind barley into coarse flour. Your arms ache by the time the sun rises. By 9, your hands are calloused. You haven't played in days. Play is for children, and you're nearly grown. And by 12, you could be married. Life is short. And brutal. And unrelenting. The cradle of civilization is also the cradle of pain. You don't know the word is civilization, of course. You just know survival. You know the sun burns your skin, and the river sometimes floods too much or not at all. You know the priest in the white robe says the gods are angry when the rains don't come, and that you must bring them offerings, grain, oil, sometimes even animals. You never question this. Not because you agree, but because questioning brings trouble. The priest can say you're cursed. Or worse, possessed. And then people won't look at you. They won't trade with your family. They won't let your children marry theirs. Social death is more terrifying than hunger. So, you keep quiet. You nod when the priest says your suffering is sacred. You bring your offerings, even if it means you eat less. And you wait. Always waiting. You don't own your land. The temple does. You don't own your tools. The overseer does. You don't own your time. The seasons do. The sun does. The gods do. There's a man who comes every week, an official from the city. He has clean sandals and a waxed beard. He carries a reed stylus and a clay tablet. He counts your goats. He measures your harvest. He tells you how much you owe. You do not argue. You do not speak. You bow your head and pray he leaves without punishing you for coming up short. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he takes your daughter as payment. She will serve in the temple, he says. A sacred duty. You don't see her again. You cry that night. Quietly. Disease is everywhere. You don't know the word for a germ. But you know that when someone drinks from the wrong well, people get sick. You know that when too many people crowd into the market, coughs spread like fire in dry reeds. There is no cure. No healer with a miracle salve. There are herbs. boiled roots, smoked leaves. They rarely help. When your son coughs for days and then stops breathing, the priest says the gods have taken him back, that he was too pure for this world. But you remember the sounds, the choking, the shaking, the stillness. And you wonder, how pure can a god be if they do this? But you do not say this aloud. You are not a fool. You are always working. The fields must be dug. The goats must be walked. The roof must be patched. The clay oven must be cleaned. The walls must be smeared again with fresh mud. And your body, it aches. By the time you're 30, your back curves slightly forward. Your knees pop when you squat. Your hands have deep cracks, filled with dirt that never fully washes away. And you are lucky. Many don't live that long. Women die in childbirth often. You've buried 2 wives that way. One bled too much. The other stopped breathing. You held her hand as it grew cold. She whispered your name once, then was gone. You remarried both times. You had to. Who would care for the children otherwise? Grief is a luxury you cannot afford. You learn to love again, but differently. Not with fire, but with warmth. A soft word. A shared figure, a moment of quiet as the sun sets behind the date palms. Love, in your world, is not about passion. It is about survival. There is no money. Trade is your only currency. You exchange eggs for cloth, barley for oil, a chicken for a half-day's help repairing your fence. And always, someone is cheating you. The scales are tilted. The measure is not fair. But there is nothing you can do. If you complain, the trader may accuse you of lying. And in your city, lying can mean lashes. So, you smile. You bow. You accept the bad deal. You go home, and you grind your grain with a little more anger than usual. That's all you can do. You believe in gods because there is no alternative. Not because they are kind. They are not. They are cruel, distant, demanding. But they are all you have. When your son is born, you whisper his name to the wind, asking for protection. When your crops bloom, you thank the rain spirits. When you bury your wife, you light a small fire and leave meat in the flames. Maybe someone is listening. Maybe no one is. But it gives you a reason to wake up tomorrow. And that is enough. You do not write. Only scribes do. Only the wealthy. The temple boys. The sons of priests. They sit in cool rooms, with clay and reeds and tiny cups of wine. They record laws, debts, trades. Your entire life, your labor, your pain, your moments of joy, none of it is written. No one will know you existed. Not your name. Not your story. Nothing. But still, you get up each day. You tie the sandals with frayed straps. You step into the street of cracked stones. You walk past the pens of braying animals, past the hungry dogs, past the empty-eyed beggars. You live. And in this world, that is an act of defiance. You are afraid of the dark. Truly afraid. Not like the children who imagine monsters. You know the real monsters. They come with knives and clubs. They come with hunger in their eyes. They do not knock. There are no locks. So you place a reed mat across the doorway and pray it is enough. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. You have woken before to screams. You have seen blood soak into dry earth. You have carried a body to the edge of the village and left it there, for the crows. You do not ask why. You just survive another night. And when the sun rises, the village pretends nothing happened. That, too, is survival. Sometimes, you dream. Not in sleep. You rarely sleep deeply. You dream while digging, while walking, while eating. You dream of a house with walls that do not crumble, of shoes that never tear, of food that fills you every time, of laughter that is not nervous or short-lived, of peace. But then someone calls your name. The dream dies, and you return to work. Because that's what life is. Work. And wait. And survive. This is ancient life. Not the life of kings. But your life. A forgotten one. A silent one. Yet it mattered. Even if no one remembers. Even if the tablets crumble. Even if the gods are gone. You mattered. You were a flicker of light in a very dark age. You were real. And in the end, that is something powerful. Even in the cradle of suffering. Chapter 2. The Dust Beneath the Pyramids, a laborer in ancient Egypt. The morning is heavy before it even begins. The moment your eyes open, you know what kind of day it will be. Not because of a calendar, or a schedule, or anything written down, but because you've lived every day of your life the same way. You wake, you rise, you work, and if the gods are merciful, you sleep again with a full belly and no injuries. You are a villager in ancient Egypt, not a priest, not a pharaoh, not even a tradesman with a stall in the market. Your family lives in a single-room mud brick house near the Nile, somewhere not far from the city of Thebes. The year is hard to say, because you don't track time by years. You track it by floods. This is your 14th flood. Your mat is stiff under your back. It's made of bundled reeds woven into a kind of sleeping surface. You share it with two of your siblings, who are still asleep, curled like kittens around your legs and arms. The room smells like everything at once: clay, straw, human sweat, smoke, dried fish, and the faint must of old baskets. There is no door, just a hanging mat that flaps when the breeze passes. The sun is not even fully risen, but light spills in from the top edge of the wall, and the air is already warm. Your mouth is dry. It's always dry in the mornings. You reach for a jug of water, one of the two kept in the corner, and drink from the rim without ceremony. The water tastes like the clay it sits in, and something else: staleness. But it doesn't matter. You've drunk worse. There's no time to stretch. No time to sit in silence and prepare for the day. The village is already waking, and soon the older men will begin shouting about the fields, about the animals, about the broken tools. You are not allowed to be slow. So you get up. The floor is hard-packed earth, swept clean by your mother the night before, and you cross it with practiced feet, stepping over your youngest brother, who is still snoring softly. You pull aside the reed mat at the door and step outside into the cool grey haze of early morning. Outside, the world is waking like a giant beast. Slowly, lazily, with groans and murmurs. Smoke curls up from a cooking fire down the street. A goat bleats. Somewhere, someone is singing softly, maybe to a child, maybe to the gods. You can't tell. Your feet are bare. They always are. Sand clings to your soles, and you feel the first tiny rocks press against your heels as you walk to the back of the house to relieve yourself behind a clay wall. There are no toilets. No pipes. You know the right spot to squat. So does everyone else. It's not dignified, but dignity is not something most people talk about here. When you return, your mother is awake, kneeling near the fire pit, blowing gently into a clay oven shaped like a dome. The fire is reluctant, and smoke stings her eyes. "Fetch water," she says, without looking at you. You nod. She doesn't say good morning. You don't expect her to. The village well is 10 minutes away if you walk quickly. It's a sunken pit lined with heavy stones, shaded by a few sticks jammed together in a makeshift awning. By the time you reach it, others are already there. Women and boys mostly, carrying jugs on their hips or shoulders, waiting their turn. There is no line. No real order. You simply wait until the person in front of you is done. You lower your jug on a rope made of palm fibers, feeling it drop into the dark coolness below. A splash. A few bubbles. Then the slow, clumsy pull to bring it back up, dripping and heavy. This water will need to be boiled before drinking. Everyone knows that. But even boiled water makes people sick sometimes. There are worms, invisible to the eye. Your uncle died last season after a long fever. They say it was from bad water. You all still drink from the same well. As you walk back, you pass the older men gathering near the fields. One of them, a man named Seamew with a beard like straw, eyes you and spits. "Tell your father the canals are dry again," he says. You nod, not stopping. Your father will not be happy. The irrigation canals are your family's shared responsibility with 3 other homes. When the water doesn't flow, the blame floats around like smoke, touching everyone, igniting tempers. By the time you reach home, your arms ache from carrying the jug. Your sister meets you at the door and takes it without a word, pouring some into a bowl where she'll boil it with bitter herbs. The rest will go into storage. You won't drink again until much later. There is bread, barely warm. Round, flat, and coarse. It smells sour, like old beer. It's made from dough your mother kneaded the night before, using ground emmer wheat and barley. The flour was full of grit. You know this because your teeth are starting to hurt, just like your father's. The stones used to grind the grain wear down slowly, and their sand ends up in the flour. Everyone's teeth are cracked and brown by the time they reach adulthood. You chew slowly, swallowing hard. The bread sticks in your throat, and you chase it with a sip of water, wincing. That's breakfast. That's always breakfast. Soon after, your father returns. He's furious. The sluice gate was blocked again, he says, throwing a stick to the ground. And no one was there to clear it. You know what this means. You will spend the entire day down at the canal, shoveling mud and reeds. The water has to flow, or the barley won't grow. If the barley doesn't grow, the landowners don't get their share. If they don't get their share, they send men to beat the workers, or worse, declare the whole village cursed. You sigh and grab the tools. There is no use arguing. The sun is climbing now. The sky is hard and white. The canal is long and winding, bordered by stones that break underfoot. You walk past a line of date palms, swaying faintly in the hot breeze, and finally reach the narrow waterway, now clogged with weeds, clay, and God knows what else. You begin with a reed rake, pulling back the tangles of green slime. Then the shovel. Then your hands. It is not quiet work. Flies buzz around your face, and the smell of rot rises from the mud. There are frogs. Dead fish. Sometimes bones. You don't ask what kind. Other boys join you. One is named Parky, a friend from the neighboring hut. He jokes about how the canal smells worse than his uncle's breath. You both laugh weakly, wiping sweat from your foreheads. The sun doesn't stop. It only rises higher. By midday, your skin burns. You feel the heat in your scalp, behind your ears, in the back of your neck. Your knees are caked with filth, and the canal is still not fully cleared. There's no choice. You keep going. There is no break. No meal. You chew a bit of dried fig someone hands you. It sticks to your teeth and tastes more like ash than fruit. You swallow anyway. As the sun begins its descent, you hear the voice of a priest echo from the village shrine. A prayer. Maybe to Happy, the god of the Nile. Or to Osiris, guardian of rebirth. You're too tired to tell. Religion is not a thing you think about deeply. It simply exists, like the heat or the river. Your family keeps a tiny idol in the corner of the house, a crude shape carved from limestone, meant to represent Bastet. Your mother lights oil before it each night. She whispers. She hopes. You hope too. But mostly, you dig. You don't have time to wonder whether the gods are real. You don't dare to question if they are just old stories. Because questioning has a cost. And hope, even false hope, makes the days slightly easier to endure. At sunset, the canal flows again. Not much. Just a trickle. But it's enough. Your father nods in approval, and for the first time all day, you sit down on a rock and breathe. Deeply. The kind of breath that stretches your ribs and makes your bones feel momentarily lighter. You look at the sky. It is pink now, bleeding into orange. The palms stand in silhouette. Parky sits beside you. Do you think we'll eat meat tonight? He asks, not really expecting an answer. You shake your head. You haven't eaten meat in weeks. When you return home, your mother is waiting with lentil stew. It's thin and sour, cooked with garlic and onion. She serves it in a cracked bowl, with more bread. This time, it's even harder than before. You break off a piece and dip it in the stew to soften it. There's also beer, barely fermented, thick and cloudy. It tastes strange, but it's safe to drink. It's the only thing that doesn't make people sick. The family eats in silence, squatting or kneeling. No one has chairs. Your youngest brother spills his bowl. Your mother scolds him quietly. Your father says nothing. His eyes are red from the sun, his hands cracked from salt and soil. After the meal, the fire dies down. Your mother lights a tiny lamp and places it before the idol. She murmurs again. You lay down on the mat. The air is warm, but at least it is still. The flies have settled. Your back hurts. Your feet sting. Your stomach is not quite full, but it's not empty either. You've had worse days. Your sister hums softly beside you, a lullaby learned from her grandmother. The sound is older than writing. Older than walls. Older than the language you speak. And as your eyes close, you think, tomorrow will be the same. And the day after that. And the one after that too. Because in ancient Egypt, unless you were born into the ruling class, life did not change much. It was repetition. It was survival. It was struggle. Beautiful in art, yes. Glorious in myth, yes. But for the average soul like you, life in ancient Egypt sucked. Chapter 3. fires in the Forum, a poor man's struggle in ancient Rome. The monsoon was always a whisper before it became a roar. You could smell it before it arrived. The scent of cracked clay, scorched grass, and dry air swollen with anticipation. In the early hours of the morning, the world would hold its breath. Cattle grew restless. Women paused while grinding millet. Children stared at the sky and waited. When the rains came, they did not knock gently. They threw open the door of the world and poured through it in a relentless tide. And when they didn't come, everything withered. You live in the Indus Valley, somewhere around 2000 BCE, in a place history might one day call Mohenjo-daro or Harappa, though to you, there is no grand name. It is simply your place, the only world you've ever known, clay-brown buildings in quiet rows, dust-covered men pulling carts, markets filled with fish and copper bangles, palm bark sandals worn thin by sun-beaten feet. From above, your city is almost beautiful, rectangular and rational, with long lanes and intersecting drains, granaries and platforms, wells and workshops. But from the ground, it is something else. From the ground, it is hard. Your life does not belong to you. It belongs to the river, the Sarasvati, or the Indus, depending on the season. It belongs to the sky, to the wind, to the gods whose names change from village to village. Some pray to horned figures carved into stone seals. Others to the mother, who squats wide-hipped and calm, painted in ochre and clay. But none of them pray to ease. You were born into a narrow brick house near the center of town. Your father is a potter, or was, until the accident with the kiln that left his hands too blistered to shape clay. Now he carries dry dung to fuel other people's fires. Your mother sometimes weaves baskets or tends to goats for neighbors, though her back has bent so low it looks like she is always praying. Your older brother joined the copper workers, hauling ingots in the smelting district, his lungs slowly turning to dust. Your sister was married off at 12 and now lives near the edge of the city, past the water well where the poor go when the central tanks run low. As for you, your days begin early and end with aching limbs. You carry jars. You scrub floors. You deliver bread for your uncle's wife and return with bruises if a crumb is missing. You know the names of every cracked tile on the street outside your door. You know which corner dogs fight over at night. You know the sound of a loom under pressure and the sharp whistle of a priest when a child runs too close to the shrine. This is your life. Structured, controlled, and always hungry. The city is not without wonder. You hear foreign tongues in the market sometimes, merchants from distant cities where the language has a curled rhythm and people wear cloaks dyed in beetle shell hues. You've seen lapis lazuli so blue it hurts the eyes, and once, a monkey painted with saffron, dancing on its leash for a fat noble and his wine-flushed friends. But those things are not for you. You have never touched bronze. You have never held a scroll. You do not know how many seasons there are, only that some bring famine and others bring snakes. The greatest miracle of your city, they say, is its planning. That the streets run straight, that homes are built with alignment and logic, that each district has drains and platforms for waste. But you know the truth. The drains smell. The barts are for the rich. And when the floods come late, no straight road can feed a starving child. You live in a civilization where no one remembers your name once you're dead, unless you're a priest, or a merchant, or a man who owned land. There are no grand tombs here like the ones across the sea in Egypt. No pyramids. No gods painted in gold. Your gods are mud and silence. They do not answer when you cry. When you wake up, you do not stretch. You curl tighter. The mornings are cold during certain months, and the rush mat under your back is soaked through from the rains. Your sister's youngest child, still nursing, has been coughing blood. Your mother says it's the dust, but the healer says it's a curse. No one can afford to believe either one. You rise. You do not eat. You walk barefoot to the market to help unload bundles of grain. You do not speak unless spoken to. You avoid the priest's eyes. You avoid the guards who carry canes. You avoid the corners where children vanish and return with haunted looks. The fish seller is already shouting. A dog limps past with one ear missing. Flies swarm near a ditch filled with water so black it could be oil. The smell is everywhere. A kind of sour, sweet rot that clings to your nostrils and won't go away even when you sleep. You sometimes wonder what it would be like to be a bird. To rise. To float away from the endless bricks, the angry men, the heat. But there are no birds here anymore. Not in the city's center. They died or left. Like everyone who can. The priest wears white. His feet are scrubbed. His sandals stitched from hide, not plant. He carries a curved staff and speaks softly, so softly that people lean in closer when he talks. It is said he can read the seals. That he knows the names of the old gods. That he once made rain come with a prayer. You don't believe it, but you pretend to. He walks past your stall and does not look at you. You are invisible. That's good. That's safe. You once knew a girl who tried to speak to him. She disappeared 2 days later. Her family said she ran off. But no one believed that. No one believed she would leave her sister behind, especially not after what happened the winter before. You hear stories. Always whispered. Of sacrifices. Of fields salted as punishment. Of children taken to the towers on the city's edge where no one is allowed to climb. Of entire neighborhoods relocated in the dark of night. The city smiles by day and eats its own by night. Your house leaks. The clay thatch gave way after the last rain. Your mother tries to patch it with old linen soaked in ash paste, but it never holds. Your youngest brother sleeps with a mat over his face now to keep the lizards off. His had bite marks before, red and swollen. The healer said it was the poison wind. Your mother said it was spirits. You know the truth. It was just another thing the city can protect you from. You try not to cry. Water is precious. And tears are luxury. You've heard that beyond the river there are forests where trees grow as tall as dreams. Where birds sing all day and no one shouts. Where food grows wild and people bathe in lakes without snakes. But that's a story. Everyone has a story. That's how they survive. Old men talk of a time when the floods came on schedule, when the gods were happy and the fish were fat. Your mother speaks of a festival where people wore flower crowns and danced under the moon without fear. Your uncle claims he once saw a tiger bow before a priest. But the only stories you trust are the ones you live. And those aren't beautiful. They're heavy. Like wet clay. There is a boy on your street who hums when he walks. Always the same song. You don't know where he learned it. He's thin, thinner than most, and wears a necklace made of beetle wings. He helps his mother clean the stalls after market. He hums while lifting rotted vegetables, swatting flies, and scrubbing stone. People say he's not right in the head. But he's kind. He gives you a fig once. Just like that. You hadn't eaten in a day. He smiled and handed it over and kept humming. Later that week, he was gone. His mother said nothing. No one asked. The city takes people the way the river does, suddenly and without apology. The monsoon returns. Late. Too late. When it finally comes, it comes angry. The sky opens like a cracked pot, and water spills not just from the heavens but from the earth itself. Your street becomes a river. The market collapses. Clay homes dissolve. You hold your youngest brother as high as you can, standing on your mat, watching the water rise, knowing it will not stop. There is no high ground. There is no boat. The priest does not come. No one prays. Not tonight. The city, for all its straight lines and drains and planning, was never made for mercy. You whisper your mother's name. You whisper the name of a god you don't believe in. You whisper the song the boy used to hum. And then you sleep. Not because you're tired, but because the only thing more exhausting than fear is hope. Chapter 4. Ashes in the Wind. Life as a captured slave in ancient Greece. The mist rises before the sun. Thin, silver veils of moisture float upward from the earth before the rooster crows. The fields are still asleep, but not for long. The mountains in the distance are barely more than shadows, dark bones under a shroud of clouds. Everything is still, for a moment, just a moment, before the weight of labor returns. You lived during the Shang dynasty, around 1200 BCE, in the central plains of ancient China, not far from the muddy, unpredictable Yellow River. But no one you know calls it that. No one you know calls this place a China either. Names like that will come much, much later. For now, the world is smaller. Your world stretches from the small edge of the farming village to the far line of the fields, and perhaps, in your imagination, to the smoky towers of the distant walled city where the king lives. But you've never seen that place. You've only heard the stories. Your village is built from earth. Not stone. Not wood. Earth. Thick slabs of rammed dirt pressed into walls by your neighbors, your family, and generations of ancestors. The walls are rough and uneven. They crack during droughts, melt slightly in the rains, and must be patched constantly. But they stand. The wind cannot get in. The animals stay out. And when the ghosts come, as they do, the incense might keep them away. Your home is not yours. You live here, yes. You eat here. You sleep here. But you do not own this land. The king does. Or the High Lord who serves the king. Or the ancestor spirits, depending on which elder you ask. Property does not belong to people like you. You belong to it. You are part of the soil. Born from it. Buried in it. Bound to it. Let's begin the day. The rooster doesn't crow once. He crows again, and again, and again, a rising panic in his throat that echoes between the low walls of the courtyard. Your father is already up. You know this without opening your eyes. You hear the soft thud of a hoe being lifted off the rack. You hear the low grunt of someone squatting near the hearth. The crackle of embers reigniting. The wheeze of someone coughing, your grandmother. She sleeps by the hearth every night now. Her back is bent like a withered tree root. She hasn't worked the fields in over 2 years, but she remembers everything. She remembers the floods, the famine, the raids from the north. She forgets your name sometimes, but not the pain. Pain stays longer than memory. You rise slowly, not because you are lazy, but because your body resists you. Your legs ache, even though you're not yet fully grown. Your fingers are already thick from years of twisting ropes, pulling weeds, hauling baskets of wet rice. Your back will never be straight. You will never learn to write. You step outside. The air is thick. Wet. It hasn't rained, but the humidity lies on your skin like damp fabric. Everything smells faintly of smoke and manure. There are chickens in the yard, pecking at nothing. A goat tied to a post bleats once and then goes silent. You step around the puddles. The mud squelches between your toes. Your family's task today is the same as every day: serve the land. But the land is never satisfied. You and your brother carry the wooden yoke across your shoulders. It creaks. The buckets tied to the ends are already half full from the well. The trip to the fields takes almost an hour by foot, and once you're there, the work begins immediately. Rice does not wait. Millet does not wait. The river waits for no one. The fields are not a tranquil place. They are not the emerald green paintings of the scribes or the silk scrolls of later dynasties. No. These fields are brutal. The mud is deep. Sticky. It sucks at your ankles with every step. Your feet blister. The leeches come early in the morning and cling to the backs of your knees. You slap them off. Sometimes you don't even feel them until you see the blood. You bend. You plant. You bend. You plant. Again. And again. 4 hours. You don't know how to measure time. The sun moves. The shadows shift. That is your clock. Sometimes your thoughts drift. What would it be like to be born a noble? To wear silk? To eat meat every day, not just on festival days? To never walk into the fields, never sleep beside animals, never feel the calluses form on your hands like bark? But then your father coughs and spits, and you return to the task. You don't speak. Talking wastes energy. Besides, there is nothing new to say. Every day is the same. You do not dream of adventure. You do not long for travel. No one travels. You are tied to your field. Your family is here. Your ancestors are buried here. Even if the gods sent you wings, you would never fly. The gods are, yes. The gods are everywhere. There is Shangdi, the high god, too far above to hear your voice directly. So you speak through the ancestors instead. Your father burns incense. Your mother whispers over bones before sleeping. You ask for rain. For no rain. For just enough rain. You ask for the locusts to pass over your fields. You ask for the officials not to visit this month. You ask for your little brother to live past the next winter. You do not pray for happiness. Happiness is for the gods. You pray for survival. Sometimes the priests come. They walk with scrolls and bronze bells. They carry turtle shells and ox scapulae, bones they crack over fire to speak with the ancestors. You've seen this once. The priest read the cracks and nodded. It will be a hard winter, he said. Then he was gone. The winter was hard. And still, you believed him. Because belief is not a luxury. It's a form of survival. Without belief, you are alone. And no one survives alone. You eat rice at midday. Not much. Just enough to quiet your stomach. A bowl with a bit of dried radish. If you're lucky, a few shreds of fish caught from the stream. You eat in silence, under a bamboo tree, swatting flies from your face. There is no conversation. Only chewing. Breathing. Swallowing. Your father tells you to return to work. Your brother groans. Your father raises a hand. That's enough. Back to the field. In the distance, you see movement. A cart. Not just any cart, a nobleman's cart. Big wooden wheels. Carved sides. Bright paint. Pulled by oxen. You freeze. Everyone freezes. The cart rolls down the road, flanked by armed retainers. Spears. Helmets. Serious faces. The peasants bow low. Eyes down. The noble does not look at you. He never does. He wears robes dyed with expensive minerals. His hands are soft. He has probably never seen a rice paddy in his life. But he owns this land. He owns you. You bow lower. The cart disappears. And you breathe again. The sun begins to set. You have planted enough for one day. You hope. You do not know if it's enough. The officials will count it later. Or they will demand a share for taxes. Or they will say you lied and punish your father. The weight of the state is heavy, even if you never see it. It lives in rumors, in quoters, in the scratch of ink on bamboo slips you cannot read. You walk home. Your legs tremble. Your arms hang limp. You want to bathe, but there is no time. You wash your feet in a shallow bowl. You drink a ladle of cold water. You lie down on the mat. Your grandmother is already asleep. Your mother whispers prayers. Your father snores. The fire crackles once, then fades. You close your eyes. And tomorrow, it begins again. And that, dear listener, was the beginning of life for millions across ancient China. The bones of their labor built the dynasties to come. The fields they tended fed armies, courts, and temples. And though their names are lost, their fingerprints remain, pressed into the walls of every mud house, carved into the soles of every worn sandal, whispered in the silence between raindrops on bamboo leaves. They did not live for glory. They lived for the next bowl of rice. And in that quiet struggle, they carried a civilization on their backs. Chapter 5: Winter Without End. A Farmer's Life in Medieval Europe. The night air is warm and damp, clinging to your skin like a wet cloth, yet offering no comfort. There are no blankets in your home, nor pillows, just a mat of woven reeds on which you sleep, curled like a resting dog. It's not comfort that keeps you asleep, it's the heaviness of exhaustion, the kind that clings to your ribs and your spine and your joints. Your name is not recorded in any scroll, and your voice has never echoed in a stone temple. You are no one, and still, the gods ask much of you. Your eyes crack open before the light. There's no choice. The sun doesn't ask for your permission, and neither does the work. You are a laborer, one of thousands, who toil in the shadow of a civilization so grand that even its tombs make the earth quake. You are part of the machine that sustains the power of Egypt. But the machine doesn't love you. It doesn't know your name. It only notices if you stop moving. The village where you live is barely more than a sprawl of mud brick huts, baked by the sun and patched with straw. The walls are cracked. The roof leaks. But it's all you know. There are no doors, just linen cloths over the entryways, fluttering gently in the early wind. Through the opening in your wall, you hear your neighbors rising, coughing, stretching, groaning under the weight of another day that has already decided what will demand of them. Your wife lies beside you, already awake. She is silent. Her hands are rougher than yours, knuckles scarred from grinding grain at the quernstone every morning, her knees darkened from years kneeling before the hearth. You catch her eye for a moment, but no words pass between you. There's nothing new to say. Life does not offer novelty here, only repetition. Each day is a reflection of the one before, etched with the same tired lines. Outside, the sand is already warming under the breath of the desert. Your children sleep in the corner, their ribs visible under the thin linen they share. One coughs in his sleep. You think about the last time you saw a physician, not that it did much good. Medicine costs silver, and silver isn't something a man like you sees often. You pray the cough goes away on its own, like it did last time. Or maybe it didn't. You can't remember which child had it last. You rise and stretch your back slowly, wincing as something cracks. You slept twisted. You always sleep twisted. There is no breakfast waiting. What food you have must be measured. Yesterday's bread, hard and sandy from careless flour, is broken in half and shared between you and your wife. You dip it in a clay cup of beer, thick, yeasty, and sour. It's not the kind the priests drink, but it fills the belly enough to get you moving. You do not own your field. It belongs to the estate of a local temple, or perhaps a noble family. You're not sure anymore. They all answer to the pharaoh in the end. But it is your hands that till it, your sweat that waters it, and your body that pays the price when the harvest fails. The Nile is generous when it wants to be, but she's also fickle. Some years she floods too little, and the crops dry up. Other years she floods too much, and the silt washes away everything. You pray for balance, for just enough. Today is no feast day. There will be no rest, no shade, no music in the distance. You walk toward the fields with the others, dozens of other men like you, all moving silently through the dust. Some carry wooden tools on their shoulders. Others lead oxen by rope, the animals snorting and twitching at the flies. No one talks much anymore. Not since the last dry season, when the grain yields were so low that the temple took half of what little you grew. You remember that year. Your youngest daughter didn't eat for 2 days. You gave her your portion and lied to your wife. Told her you'd already eaten. That was a lie you told often that year. As you reach the edge of the field, you stop and look over the land. It's cracked and dry at first glance, but beneath the surface lies the potential of life, if the Nile was kind. If the priests are honest about how much seed you can keep. If the gods are listening. You begin to work. The sun is only just peeking over the horizon, but already the sweat starts to bead on your forehead. You bend low, breaking the hardened earth with your dull wooden hoe. The oxen groan as they are whipped into motion by the overseer, a younger man, better fed, whose father held a higher status. He doesn't lift a finger to help. Just watches, arms folded, eyes sharp like a hawk's. He'll report any laziness, real or imagined. You learned that the hard way when your friend was punished for resting a moment too long. A public lashing. He still walks with a limp. Time passes slowly in the fields. The sun grows stronger. Your mouth dries. You reach for the water skin tied to your waist, but it's already warm. You drink anyway. Better that than nothing. Around midday, the oversoy allows a short break. You retreat under the narrow shadow of a palm tree, but it offers little relief. The heat seems to seep into your bones. Your fingers ache. Your back is tight. But you can't stop now. If you fall behind, your share of the grain will be docked. If your quota is not met, someone else will eat what was meant for your family. You chew more bread. It crumbles into sand in your mouth. Everything tastes of dust out here. Even your thoughts feel dry. In the afternoon, the wind shifts. A sandstorm brews in the distance, a brown blur that swallows the horizon. The overseer barks orders. You cover your mouth with cloth, squinting as the sand scours your skin. There's no shelter, no pores. You must keep working. The storm is brief, but sharp. When it passes, your arms are red and raw. The overseer doesn't care. He's used to seeing broken men. By evening, your limbs tremble. The work is done for today. Or, at least, your portion of it. You carry the harvested stalks toward the granaries, massive, looming structures where the grain will be weighed and measured by scribes who never touch the dirt. They sit under shaded pavilions with their smooth papyrus scrolls and black ink, their skin pale from a life spent indoors. They record everything, what you've brought, how much seed you've used, whether your quota has been met. One glance at their stylus, and your fate is sealed. They don't speak to you unless you're in trouble. When the last sheaf is handed over, you trudge back to the village. Your wife waits, kneeling at the hearth. A stew of lentils and onions simmers over a small fire, but it's thin. There wasn't much left after market day. The taxes were heavier this month. You eat in silence. Your children huddle close. The oldest asks if you brought home a story. You smile weakly and begin to tell one, a fable about a clever jackal who tricked a crocodile. Your voice cracks halfway through. Your daughter is asleep before the end. You watch her for a moment. Then you lie down. The reed mat welcomes you like a bed of nails. Tomorrow will be the same. And the day after. Until you're too old to lift a hoe. Then, if you're lucky, your sons will feed you. If not, the temple might give you bread. Or maybe they won't. You stare up at the ceiling. A spider hangs in the corner. The wind rustles the roof. Outside, the stars glimmer faintly over the Nile, indifferent and eternal. And somewhere far away, a golden tomb is being carved for a pharaoh who will never know your name. Chapter 7. Bound by Silk and Silence. A Girl's Life in Ancient China. The first sounds are never gentle. You don't wake to music, or voices reading verses from Virgil, or the laughter of a well-fed family enjoying a meal under sunlight filtered through silk curtains. You wake instead to coughs, the kind that sound like something tearing inside a throat, and the creaking protest of wooden beams above your head. You wake to the sharp smell of burnt oil and piss soaked into a mat, to the bark of your father's voice raised again too early in the morning, shouting at no one, at everyone. At the hunger and the fleas and the gods who seem to have abandoned you all. You open your eyes and find the same cracked ceiling above you, the one you've stared at since you were old enough to focus your gaze. It is mottled with mildew, flaking plaster, and the soot stains of too many winters without proper heat. A spider has made a home in the upper corner again. You see it catch a fly in its web and think, for a second, that at least someone in the building has caught breakfast. You sit up slowly. You're careful not to wake your younger sister, whose thin arm is draped over your leg. She's only 4. Her body feels like a feather compared to yours, and yet somehow heavier with each passing day, as if childhood were already weighing her down. She coughs in her sleep and turns over. Her ribs poke through the fabric of the tunic she wore to bed. She wears it every day. There is a sound above, thumping, shouting, and then the sudden crash of something falling over. A clay amphora? Maybe a stool. It doesn't matter. It happens every day in the insular. The building groans like it's sick. This neighborhood, Sabura, is packed so tightly with people that you've memorized the rhythms of your neighbors' lives without ever meeting them. Someone beats their wife on the 3rd floor. A man sobs alone every night in the hallway near the latrine. Children scream 2 doors down, not in play but in need. Sometimes you can hear them scratching lice, the sound loud enough in the quiet before dawn. You live on the 5th floor. That might sound like something prestigious to someone who's never known poverty. But here, the higher you live, the poorer you are. The walk up is harder, the walls thinner, and the risk of the building collapsing greater. Rich people don't live in insulae at all, and certainly not above the 2nd floor. This isn't marble Rome. This is the splintering skeleton of it. You swing your legs over the edge of the mat. Your toes land on a floor that is not cold, not because it's clean or warm, but because the waste of 100 people below you keeps this place unnaturally heated. The stone steps outside are cracked and worn. Every corner of the stairwell smells like old fish bones, wet wood, urine, and something older still, like mold wearing a human mask. You shuffle toward the wooden shelf that holds what little your family owns. There are no toys, no books, no coins. Just a chipped bowl, a cracked cup, and a wooden spoon blackened at the tip from too many fires. Your mother is already awake. She hasn't slept much. Her skin is dull, hair pulled back in a knot so tight it looks like pain. Her hands are red, raw, always moving. She says nothing when you appear. Just gestures at the bowl. Today's breakfast, a few olives and a strip of salted fish that's already turned. You take one olive, roll it in your hand, and pretend it's more than what it is. Your sister wakes and begins crying when she sees there's not enough to fill her stomach. Again. You hand her your olive. Again. This is Rome, the eternal city. And this is what eternity feels like when you're born to be broken. You step out into the alley. The light is sharp. It cuts through the slums like a knife, never quite reaching the bottom. The stone walls of the tenements are pockmarked with rot and human filth. Laundry hangs from lines strung across windows. A rat darts from a pile of refuse into the shadows. You follow the same path you always do, past the broken shrine where someone once left an offering to Mercury, past the old woman who sits hunched in the doorway with cataracts for eyes, past the graffiti that reads a fortuner only favors the rich. You don't go to school. Not really. Some days, if your father's mood is good, he'll let you follow him to the market. Other days, he sends you to haul water or try to sell scraps for a few denarii. You once tried to listen to a philosopher in the forum, standing near the edge, barefoot and confused. But the guards chased you away before the man could say anything interesting. You're not allowed in their world. Not even as a spectator. Today, you're sent to the bakery. You carry a basket, old, brittle, and you're supposed to beg the baker for burnt bread crusts they're planning to throw out. Sometimes, if you ask politely and is not in a foul mood, he gives you 1 or 2. If not, you go home empty-handed, and your mother cries in the corner while pretending not to. On the way there, you pass others like you. Barefoot boys and tired girls with eyes that have already seen too much. One kid offers you a lump of dried figure. You trade him a small carved stone you found near the aqueduct. He smiles. You feel good for a moment. The bakery smells like heaven. Like warmth and safety and the things that feel furthest away. You wait behind a line of slaves. Some wear collars. Some are older than your father. One of them is missing a hand. When it's finally your turn, the baker frowns. Didn't I see you here yesterday? You nod. He squints, then tosses a small piece of blackened crust into your basket. You thank him. He doesn't respond. You walk home slowly, nibbling the edge of the crust before deciding to save the rest for your sister. Her cough hasn't stopped. It sounds worse today. Maybe she has the fever. You don't want to think about that. Back home, the building groans again. There's water leaking down the back stair. You try not to step in it. Your father is gone, off to work, probably cleaning latrines again for a wealthier family on the Palatine Hill. Your mother is scrubbing your sister's face with a damp cloth. She doesn't say anything when she sees you've brought back bread. She just nods and breaks it in half. The rest of the day passes in silence. The hours are filled with waiting for food, for someone to knock with bad news, for the building to collapse, for the sickness to pass or worsen, for anything at all to change. You help your mother boil water for laundry. The steam makes your eyes sting. You scrape soot from the walls. You patch a hole in the mat with old thread. You fan flies away from your sister's face. She doesn't wake up for lunch. You wonder, briefly, what it would feel like to run. To leave the insular, the alley, the whole city. You imagine a life on the road, perhaps as a caravan boy or a stable helper in the countryside. You've heard the farms are better, that the air is cleaner and the people kinder. But you've also heard stories of boys being taken, used, broken. So you stay. Because Rome is terrible. But it is also all you've ever known. The sun begins to set. The shadows grow long. You can hear the sounds of wealth somewhere far off, laughter echoing from a villa, the clink of wine cups, the strum of a lyre. You imagine what it must feel like to eat until full. To sleep without fear. To beg every day. But imagining only makes the hunger worse. You crawl onto the mat with your sister again. Your mother hums a lullaby, one she barely remembers. The notes are cracked, the rhythm uneven. But it is the only music you'll hear tonight. Your sister clutches your arm. Her skin is hot. You whisper promises to her, soft ones, that she'll feel better tomorrow. That you'll both eat more. That someday you'll live near the sea. You're lying. You know it. But you also know that lies are the only kindness left sometimes. Outside, the city moans, a deep, human sound made of footsteps and grief. You close your eyes. Chapter 8. On the Edge of the World, A Life in a Viking Fishing Village. Your hands ache before the sun even reaches its full climb. The knotted fibers are stubborn today. Dry. Coarse. Each strand fights against your touch, like it resents being undone. You shift your weight, leaning slightly to the left, where the dull pressure in your spine doesn't bite quite so hard. Your mother still hasn't spoken again. She doesn't have to. You can feel her thoughts. Heavy. Distracted. Always running ahead of the day. You know she worries about food. About the barley ration. About the rising cost of oil and the stingy merchant with the chipped tooth who sells the worst lentils but is closest to your home. She doesn't talk about these things often, but you see them, in the tightness of her jaw, in the way she pinches the edges of the mats she weaves. Worry lives in her hands. From inside the house, the baby starts wailing again. That sharp, hollow cry that splits the air like a reed whistle. Your mother sighs, her shoulders sagging. Watch the mat, she says without looking at you. She rises slowly, one knee stiff, the other cracking as she stands. Her steps are uneven on the hard-packed earth, and you hear her muttering under her breath as she disappears through the doorway. You're alone again. The sun slips higher, drawing patterns of light through the gaps in the mud-brick walls. A fly lands on your arm. You flick it away. Another takes its place. There are always flies in the city, on the food, on the dung piles, on the babies' faces. You hate them. A shadow falls across your work. You look up. It's your brother. He's taller now. 2 seasons ago, you could look him in the eye while sitting. Now he towers, thin but wiry, his arms sun-darkened and calloused from carrying jugs of water and stacking sacks of barley at the river port. His tunic hangs off one shoulder, stained with sweat and something that might be fish oil. Mother sent me to check on you, he says, though you know that's not true. You nod. You don't ask what he really wants. He kicks a pebble, watches it bounce, then sits cross-legged beside you. His eyes scan the mat. You did that wrong, he says casually. You blink. How? That corner. See? Too tight. The pattern slips. He reaches out and tugs gently at one of the reeds, adjusting it. You watch him work. His fingers are fast. Confident. He learned the craft faster than you, even though it was supposed to be your job. Your hands. Your role. But then your legs didn't grow right. And your place shifted, slowly, silently, until you became something in between a child and a burden. Useful, sometimes. But never enough. I saw the priest today, your brother says suddenly. You glance at him. He says there's a festival soon. For Nanner. Nanner, the moon god. Patron of the city. His temple rises on top of the great ziggurat, far above where you've ever been. You imagine him watching, pale and distant, wrapped in silver robes and moonlight. He must see everything, from that high place. All of you. Even the parts the others ignore. They'll have dancers, your brother continues. And a procession. Maybe food stalls. You nod, though you know you won't go. You never do. He stands, stretching his arms. I might go with Jashim. If we get enough done early. You nod again. He hesitates. You want me to bring you something? He asks. You blink. He's never asked that before. Maybe, you say. Something sweet. He smirks. If Jashim has coin. Then he's gone, down the alley, his feet slapping softly on the dirt. You listen to the fading sound of him, then return to the rope. Midday burns hot. The square bakes in the sun, and you retreat to the narrow strip of shade beside the house. Your fingers are stiff. You tuck the cane under your arm and drag yourself slowly across the ground, careful not to jostle your knees too hard. They protest even gentle motion. Always have. Inside, your mother fans the baby with a scrap of cloth. The child is slick with sweat, red-faced, angry. She rocks her slowly, humming something low and wordless. You sit near the doorway. Close enough to hear her song. Close enough to pretend it's for you. Once, your mother sang often. Before your legs became a problem. Before your father's debts came due. Before life turned into one long list of a not enough. Not enough food. Not enough help. Not enough time. Now, the songs come only when the baby cries. You press your back to the wall and close your eyes. In your mind, you are walking, slowly, deliberately, across the wide avenue outside the city gates. The palm trees sway. Traders pass with carts of copper and linen. A breeze lifts the edge of your robe. But you don't need the cane. In this dream, your legs are strong. Solid beneath you. You feel the ground. You feel power. Then a footstep snaps you back. It's your father. He smells of sweat and stale beer. His beard is short and crooked, his lips chapped. He doesn't look at you as he passes. He rarely does. He says something sharp to your mother. Something about rations. She replies in that flat voice she uses when she doesn't want to be blamed. The baby wails louder. The argument builds, quiet, bitter, tense. You want to vanish. You want to crawl beneath the earth, or float above it, or slide into some place that doesn't exist yet, where people aren't always tired, and mothers aren't always sad, and fathers aren't always angry. But there's nowhere to go. So you wait. You breathe. You listen. By late afternoon, the square fills with heat and dust. A neighbor sprinkles water on the ground to keep it from kicking up. Children chase each other past the door, shouting and laughing. One pauses when he sees you. A boy, maybe 6, maybe 7. He tilts his head. Why do you walk like that? He asks. You blink. You weren't even moving. I don't, you say. Yes, you do. He squints at you, then darts away. You watch him go, heart aching. You hate how easily they run. You hate how they don't notice their legs working. You look down at yours. Thin. Bent. Unreliable. You don't remember a time they ever worked right. Later, your mother gives you a bowl of lentil stew. It's thin, mostly water. You eat it anyway. Hunger is always waiting, just behind your ribs, like a dog you forgot to feed. Night comes slow in your. The sun sinks behind the ziggurat, and the sky bleeds orange. Shadows stretch. The heat fades. Your brother returns. He smells like roasted barley and lamp oil. Did you go? You ask. He grins. They had pomegranate syrup. I drank until my teeth hurt. You smile. It's real. The first one in days. He tosses you something wrapped in cloth. A sticky cake. Figs and flour, clumped together. Eat it before mother sees, he whispers. You do. It's the best thing you've tasted in months. Chapter 10. Dust upon the wind, the weight of growing old in ancient China. Your hut stands at the edge of the village, where the path curves toward the forest. It is a humble home, not much more than reeds, timber, and packed mud, but it is yours. You built it yourself in your youth, with hands that could lift stones and shape beams. That was decades ago, when your back didn't betray you and your fingers weren't stiff in the mornings. You were proud of it then. You are proud of it now, though the roof leaks in heavy rains and the walls sag slightly toward the east. Nothing lasts forever. The wind is gentle this morning, rustling the dry grass outside your doorway. You sit quietly for a while, letting the breeze wash over you, cooling your sun-spotted skin. You've come to cherish these silent moments, when the world is neither sleeping nor awake, and the noise of duty has not yet begun. Your neighbors no longer ask for your help in the fields. That change came quietly, like the gradual dimming of the sky before dusk. First, you were asked to rest while the younger men harvested. Then, your tools disappeared from the communal shed. Now, even the children no longer wave as they run past your gate. You are a shadow to them, something left behind. Once, you would have been ashamed of this. In your youth, usefulness was everything. To feed, to build, to obey, that was life's purpose. But as age hollowed your limbs and thinned your breath, a different truth emerged, slow and steady like the river that carved the valley. Survival itself is a form of service. To last, To witness, that is its own kind of work. You know this now. You reach for your cane, a gnarled stick of polished birchwood, and rise, slowly. Each joint protests. You do not rush. Outside, your small garden waits. Most of it lies fallow now. Just a few bitter greens remain, struggling against the dry soil. But tending to them gives your hands purpose. You kneel with effort, brush the leaves free of dust, and pluck away the brown, dying shoots. The scent of earth rises beneath your fingers, familiar and honest. You remember planting this garden with your wife. It was her idea, always her hands in the soil, her laughter bright beneath the sun. She is gone now, 5 years past. You marked her passing with the old rites, incense, prayer, the offering of steamed buns on her birthday. Her spirit lingers, you think. Not in the house, but in the quiet. In the space between raindrops. In the rhythm of your days. Grief no longer burns. It settles, instead, like morning mist on the fields, cool, soft, always present. Your breath grows laboured, and you sit again. A small bird flutters in the tree above, chirping once before darting away. You envy its lightness. The years have made you heavy, not just in body, but in thought. The things you've seen cling to your memory like burrs on wool. You remember the famines. 4 of them. The worst was when you were 13. Your father had gone to the capital to deliver grain and never returned. Bandits, some said. Sickness, others guessed. He was just gone. Your mother rationed what she could. You learned to trap frogs and dig for roots along the marsh. Many died. You nearly did, too. Hunger changes the shape of time. Every hour stretches like a pulled thread, trembling with nothingness. You remember the conscriptions. Your elder brother taken away to fight in the border campaigns. He came back 3 years later, missing a leg and much of his spirit. You watched him drink himself into silence. He died beneath your roof one summer afternoon, his heart too tired to go on. War, you learned, does not always kill in the field. Sometimes it waits until the fighting stops, and then it takes you in the dark, slowly. You remember the drought, how the river pulled away from the village like a retreating animal. Crops failed. Tempers rose. Neighbors turned on neighbors. You saw a man killed over a handful of grain. You said nothing. You had to survive. You have seen peace, too, seasons when the rains came on time, when children were born without mothers dying beside them, when music played during the harvest festival. But peace never lasted. Not really. It was a brief dream, always chased away by hunger, war, or the weight of obedience. The Jew king changes. You remember 5 of them now. Their names blur. Their decrees matter little to you. Each one, in time, promises a new order, a righteous rule, a moral path, the mandate of heaven restored. But the taxes remain. The field quotas remain. The punishments remain. Heaven does not plant your barley or fix your roof. You have seen so much. Yet none of it made you wise. Just tired. By midday, the sun hangs high, and the village hums. You sit beneath the small awning outside your door, sipping hot water steeped with mint. Children race along the road, laughing. One of them, a boy with crooked teeth and an untamed fringe of hair, pauses as he passes. He looks at you, uncertain. You nod. He blinks, then runs on. You wonder if he knows your name. Your name. It feels strange now, distant. You once shouted it across fields, etched it into tools, wrote it in the dust for your sons to learn. But your sons are gone now. One to fever. One to a collapsed granary wall. The third, you never learned his fate, conscripted like his uncle before him. Your daughters were married off. One to a potter. One to a merchant who beat her. You heard rumors that she fled. No one speaks of her anymore. The youngest, sweet Lay, died in childbirth, her cries echoing down the village path like a torn song. You weren't allowed in the room. Now, there is only you. And silence. Yet you do not hate the world. You've seen too much for hatred. It takes energy. You prefer stillness, the quiet acceptance of what is. You spend your days in rhythm. Wake, tend the garden, sweep the floor, steep your herbs, sit. Occasionally, someone from the village will bring a gift, dried fish, a gourd of wine, a woven mat. You nod your thanks. You never ask why. Perhaps they do it out of pity, or guilt, or obligation. It doesn't matter. You survive. That is enough. At night, the world dims slowly. The stars arrive one by one, hesitant at first, then boldly. You lie on your back, staring through the hole in your roof. You used to curse that hole. Now, it lets you see the heavens without stepping outside. The moon tonight is a sliver, like a rice stalk, newly planted. You remember the stories your grandfather told you of how the moon was once a great goddess who wept silver tears across the night sky. You liked that story. You still do. Sleep comes in fits. Your dreams are strange, fragmented. Sometimes you walk through your childhood home. Sometimes you sit at the riverbank with your wife, her laughter rising like waterbirds. Sometimes there is only the wind, pulling at your robes, carrying your name far beyond the mountains. Each morning, you wake surprised. And then, one morning, you don't. You pass in your sleep, beneath the thin light of dawn. No pain. No fear. Just a long, slow breath, and then none. The village children find you. The same boy with crooked teeth knocks on your door, curious. When you don't respond, he peeks in and runs to tell the elders. They come. They speak softly. One covers your face with a cloth. They wrap you gently and carry you to the funeral platform. There is no great ceremony. No official rites. Just the burning of incense and the quiet murmur of your name by those who still remember it. They bury you at the edge of the field, where your garden once grew. No marker. No statue. Just a small pile of stones. And the wind. You are gone. And the world continues. The river flows. The rice is planted. The drums beat during the new year. A new magistrate arrives and demands higher grain taxes. A neighboring village is raided. Children grow. Elders fade. Life trudges on. No one remembers how much your knees ached, or how many winters you survived, or how you once held your daughter's hand as she laughed beneath the plum blossoms. But that doesn't matter. Because in the quiet, in the rhythm, in the aching slowness of survival, you existed. You mattered. You were dust upon the wind. And that is enough.